fan of portal fantasy stories like Labyrinth, Spirited Away, or The Never-Ending Story, then Infinity Train is definitely for you. Created by Owen Dennis, this animated series takes place on a mysterious, endless train filled with bizarre and magical cars. Each passenger has to face challenges in these strange worlds to grow, heal, and find their way home. What makes Infinity Train so special is how it ties each character's journey through the train to their personal struggles and emotional growth. Every season, called a book, follows a new story and cast, but the theme of healing and discovery remains constant.
Don't you get it? Seeing her tape just made things harder.
Personally, if I could bring any show back, it would be this one. And honestly, this concept would be perfect for a video game where you make choices to navigate the train and its challenges. So, without further ado, let's begin. On November 22nd, 2019, Tulip Olsen and her friend Michaela step off the school bus and start walking home together. As they walk, Tulip munches on a raw onion, something Michaela clearly isn't thrilled about. Trying not to gag, she gives Tulip a resigned look, but Tulip just keeps chewing like it's totally normal. The two chat about Tulip's upcoming trip to a coding camp in Oshkosh, Wisconsin, and the video game she's been working on. Tulip's excitement is clear as she talks about fixing bugs and building her own world. As they get closer to Tulip's house, Michaela hesitates for a moment and asks how things have been with Tulip's parents since the divorce. The question hits a nerve. Tulip's expression shifts, and she abruptly cuts the conversation short, saying goodbye a little too quickly. When Tulip gets inside, her mom, Megan, tries to talk to her while juggling a phone call with Tulip's dad, Andy. But Tulip isn't in the mood. She brushes past her mom and heads straight to her room. There, she pulls out her Coding is Cool book and starts working on her game again. After a bit of tweaking, she finally fixes the bug that had stopped one of her sprites from moving. She pumps her fist in triumph, happy to have solved it, but the moment is short-lived. Megan calls her downstairs and, with a heavy sigh, breaks some bad news. Neither she nor Andy can take Tulip to camp. Andy mixed up the dates and scheduled a work trip, and Megan has an overnight shift at the hospital. Tulip is crushed. She snaps, accusing them of being too busy to be her parents. Megan tries to explain. They're both still trying to figure things out after the divorce, but the words don't land. Tulip, visibly upset, storms back to her room in tears. She grabs the camp flyer, crumples it up, and throws it aside. Her phone buzzes with an apology text from her dad, but she ignores it. After sitting in silence for a moment, she looks out her bedroom window. Snow covers the field behind her house. Without a word, she pulls on her boots and gloves, opens the window, and climbs out. Determined, she starts running across the snowy field, hoping she can somehow make it to the camp on her own. Night eventually falls, and Tulip realizes how useless it is to try walking 300 miles. Just as she says this, she is startled by a train passing by with green light shining from its windows. The train stops right in front of her, and the destination board reads Oshkosh. Tulip shrugs and boards the train, only to be immediately surrounded by a glowing ring of light. She wakes up, thinking she is in a snowy landscape during the daytime, and decides she just had a boring dream about outdated forms of transportation. As she walks, she comes across some snowmen and tries to mess with them, only to find the head of the last snowman is actually a small white robot with two opposing personalities. The robot explains he is looking for his mother, and asks Tulip if she is looking for her mother. Tulip denies this and brushes the robot off as a toy before saying she is still trying to go to Oshkosh. Noticing a giant snowman in the middle of the field with a door in its stomach, Tulip opens the door, only to be shocked to see the exterior of the very train she had boarded. Realizing she has boarded a really weird big train, she excitedly asks the robot for more information, but he proves somewhat unhelpful in answering her question. Tulip runs into the next car, called the grid car, which looks like an empty room with regular grid patterns on the walls. When she steps inside, she quickly discovers that pressing the walls, floor, or ceiling makes a tone sound and a colorful cube appear. The two start playing in the car, building different structures with the cubes. The robot notices Tulip building two objects from the game she was working on, good guys poppin' bad guys.
Good guys poppin' bad guys.
And she replies only one. The robot then says his own name is 1-1, which Tulip thinks is a strange name, unlike Tulip, which she says is perfectly normal. Just as Tulip throws a glove to activate a cube on the ceiling, she is startled when a glowing number, 115, appears on her hand. At that moment, the train suddenly stops. Tulip looks out the door and is disturbed to see the land around the train doesn't look like Wisconsin, but like a reddish desert with dark, ominous clouds in the sky. As she watches, a beam of light that looks like a glowing tornado stretches from a spinning cloud down to a car ahead. A human silhouette is pulled out of the car and disintegrates in the light. Terrified, Tulip decides she needs to get off the train. She climbs down from the car and runs into the desert, but quickly gets stuck in a patch of mud. As Tulip struggles to pull herself out of the mud, 3 giant creatures called gomes rise from the ground. With a burst of effort, Tulip frees her foot, but the gomes start chasing her back to the train, which has already begun moving again. She manages to climb back on by riding one of the wheels up to the bottom of a car and then climbing inside. The gomes fly after her. Tulip runs into the grid car and tries to shut the door. But one gome sneaks inside. She briefly stops it by using part of the car to make a small wall, but the gome soon corners her and begins sucking her life force away. 1-1 suddenly splits in half, revealing he is actually 2 robots, Glad 1 and Sad 1. Glad 1 is launched at the gome, knocking it back and freeing Tulip. Tulip orders 1-1 to build a wall around the next door to keep the gome trapped. The 2 escape the car, leaving the gome locked inside. Sitting on the platform just outside, Tulip tries to make sense of her situation, saying that even crazy things have their own logic. She asks 1-1 if the train has a conductor. The robot thinks there is one, but guesses he would most likely be at the engine. Tulip looks out at the seemingly endless train and, seeing the glowing number on her hand, firmly declares, "I'm getting off this train."
I'm getting off this train.
Tulip is working on a crossword puzzle in the crossword car, with 1-1 trying to help. However, his help ends up making things worse as he scribbles unrelated phrases in every white square, which annoys Tulip. She tells 1-1 to stay still and stop writing, and he agrees. Soon, Tulip moves into the tiny wizard's car, carefully tiptoeing around strange creatures while trying to keep 1-1 quiet. But 1-1 misunderstands quiet as meaning loud, causing the creatures to get angry and chase them toward the next car. Inside the pinball car, Tulip climbs into a hamster ball to find the exit. Suddenly, 1-1's sad side pushes the ball the opposite way, into a multi-ball hole, saying this is where he belongs, possibly hinting at the engine. As Tulip thinks about this, she is interrupted when 3 metal balls come rolling toward her, knocking her around. After leaving the pinball car, 1-1's 2 sides both praise and scold Tulip about her score in the game, saying they almost found their mum this time. Tulip reminds them that her time on the train isn't a game and that she has to keep moving toward the engine to find a way out. She explains her philosophy. Work first, play later. She compares it to when she helped her dad test go-karts before he resold them. Happy 1 and Sad 1 aren't convinced. Tulip admits there was some playtime, like hose fights and pizza, but says it still counted as work. Suddenly, the number on her hand glows and drops by 1, changing to 114. She panics, fearing the worst, and 1-1 confirms that when the number hits 0, she will die. This scares Tulip, making her snap in anger and desperation. She fears dying on the train because there's no stupid rule book. Even though Happy 1 tries to comfort her, Tulip says she has no time for this crap, picks up the 2 pieces, and charges toward the next car. Once inside, Tulip looks around and sees that she is in a new world featuring a beach, an ocean, and some distant buildings. She overhears a voice coming from over a hill, so she runs toward it and crouches to avoid being seen. There, she watches a cat smooth-talking a blob of water named Randall into buying an ordinary pipe, which the cat calls a donut holer. The cat demonstrates by punching holes in sheets of paper and a hat, trying to trick Randall into buying it. Randall easily falls for the scam and begins imagining the fortunes he would gain. The cat agreed, adding to the dream, but Randall soon realizes it's a pyramid scheme, though the cat distracts him by calling it a pyramid team. To seal the deal, the cat claims the pipe was certified by her close acquaintance, the conductor. This surprises Tulip, who then charges down to confront the 2 and starts talking uncontrollably. The cat manages to calm her down after hearing about Tulip's situation and the grim fate awaiting her if her number reaches 0. The cat doesn't believe it and asks where Tulip heard that. Tulip pulls 1-1 from her pack, which immediately catches the cat's interest as he was doing a mum check. The cat tests 1-1's intelligence, and Tulip gets mad at him for tricking her into thinking she's dying, throwing him at Randall out of frustration. Finally, the cat agrees to help Tulip, but only if Tulip gives 1-1 to her and fixes her cat craft. While fixing the craft, Tulip is pestered with questions by 1-1, such as her height, her hair, and her name, to which Tulip annoyingly replies that she doesn't know anything. The cat overhears their conversation and is confused about why Tulip was named after a flower, but Tulip again says she doesn't know and didn't name herself. 1-1 then gives Tulip a daisy as a present, which she responds to with annoyance. Tulip figures out the root of the problem. The craft is missing a gear, and she wonders where to find one. Randall suggests that he knows where to get it. The group goes underwater to a town full of water blobs, selling various items, and stops at a gear shop. They barter with the salesperson, offering the daisy on Tulip's head in exchange for the gear. Tulip frustratingly agrees, much to Sad One's dismay and depression. Once the gear is in place, Tulip bids farewell to 1-1, who thinks they will cross paths again someday. Tulip responds that they won't, because she'll be gone and he'll be with the cat. The cat then takes 1-1 with her on her craft and flies off toward the engine to talk to the conductor. As she leaves, 1-1 gives Tulip a depressing farewell, making her question herself. Back at the beach car, Tulip sits by the shore, thinking about what she had done, when Randall stops by and tries to use her as a marketing subject. Tulip angrily tells him to go away. Undeterred, Randall creates a clone of himself and pitches his marketing strategy to it. He talks to his clone about teamwork and the importance of having a team to be there for each other. Tulip says it's more than that. Randall responds to one of his clones, saying that even though he's not good at some things, he's got guts and cares about their team. Tulip then exclaims that she didn't not care about 1-1's fate with the cat and genuinely thought she was helping him, but realizes she acted out of desperation and fear, unknowingly giving away one of her own teammates. Realizing what she has to do, she bargains with Randall to take her to the cat, and in return, she'll take the pipe. Randall responds gleefully. They return to the gear shop to exchange a pack of gum for the daisy. Then they chase after the cat, with Tulip trying to stop the deal, but the cat refuses and tries to flee. Randall and his clones seep into the craft, damaging it and causing it and the cat to crash into a wall. Tulip recovers 1-1, but the cat warns her about eternal entrapment inside the train and worse, before being interrupted by Mini Randalls pestering her for a sale. Tulip apologizes to 1-1, admitting she was reckless and now considers him a teammate and a friend. 1-1 forgives her, saying he knew she just needed some sense to get back to her true self.
It's okay, Miss Tulip. I knew you'd bounce back, just like when your parents hatched you.
A week has passed since Tulip's number changed to 109. Determined not to waste any more time, she sprints through the keyboard car, the cross-eyed ducks car, the monster dance car, and the ancient temple car, ignoring the inhabitants and refusing to stop. She finally pauses in a car ruled by a kingdom of corgis. The corgi king, Atticus, welcomes them to Corginia and offers Tulip a tour, which she reluctantly accepts. Impressed by Corginian society, Tulip decides she and 1-1 need to move on. Atticus explains the next door lies across a river and through the woods, and is supposedly unsolvable. Tulip resolves to continue anyway, but they are interrupted by the monster, a shadowy creature causing floods in Corginia for a week. Atticus explains the corgis can't fight it alone because they're too small to cross the river without drowning. Tulip agrees to help Atticus stop the monster, suspecting it might be linked to her number staying the same. The trio reaches the door and discover the monster is actually a glowing orb casting a shadow on a normal spider, which Atticus promptly eats. When the floodwaters and Tulip's number remain unchanged, she angrily complains about her lack of progress. Atticus comforts her with advice, pointing out she's still solving problems, like helping his kingdom, and she gives him a friendly belly rub. They then realize the glowing orb isn't the real cause. The true monster is a robot with many tentacles called the Steward, stealing orbs that power the car's environment. Tulip suggests escaping through the unsolvable puzzle door, only to learn the corgis simply don't know how to open doors. 1-1 tries to greet the steward, but it immediately fires on them and injures Atticus when he attacks. The steward then confronts Tulip, loudly ordering her to return to her seat. Atticus restores the stolen orbs, stopping the floods, while Tulip tries to evade the steward. 1-1 begins singing and dancing to cheer it up. Noticing 1-1, the steward promptly leaves the car, leaving Tulip confused. Tulip's number drops to 101, though she doesn't understand why. Atticus declares Corginia will never be safe while the steward remains and asks to join Tulip on her journey, to stop the monster, and because Tulip gives stellar belly rubs, which she accepts. With a new friend and ally, Tulip decides she won't rush through the next car. After helping Nancy, a woman with a rose for a head, open her restaurant in what Atticus calls the Mediterranean Republic car, Tulip notices something that bothers her. Her number hasn't changed at all since the Corgi car, even though she helped Nancy in exactly the same way she helped Atticus before. When they move on to the next car, they discover everything is made of crystals. All the plants and animals sparkle like they've been dipped in diamonds, which amazes them at first. Atticus suggests that Tulip should take a break from worrying about her number so they can actually enjoy this beautiful place, and she reluctantly agrees even though she's still frustrated. However, they quickly run into a problem when they realize the exit door is perched high up on a cliff face, completely out of reach. A crystal man named Greg can only communicate through mime, but he manages to explain that the steward stole all the steps leading to the door. According to Greg, they can only get new steps if they touch a nearby crystal and sing an emotional song that moves it. Atticus decides to try first and sings the Ballad of Mustard and Stinktail from his kingdom, but the crystal can't translate his howling into anything meaningful. 1-1 also attempts to help by making dial-up internet sounds, though he just ends up reporting connection fail. Next, Tulip tries singing every emotional song she can remember, but the crystal remains completely unresponsive no matter what she does. Finally, getting fed up with the whole situation, she decides to just build a ladder instead, even though she has to do all the work herself since she's the only one with thumbs. While Tulip spends her time hammering and building, Atticus uses the entire period to tell 1-1 and Grage the complete story behind his ballad. By the time she finishes constructing the ladder and climbs up to reach the door, she discovers it's locked, which only adds to her frustration. Grage helps clear things up for Tulip when he explains that the song needs to be emotional to her personally, not just any sad or touching song in general. This makes Tulip think harder about her own memories, so she starts digging through her mind for happy moments and the songs that went with them. Eventually, she remembers family road trips from when she was younger, which triggers something unexpected. A backing track for Word Up by Cameo from 1986 suddenly starts playing around them, the same song she used to sing with her family during those long car rides. Tulip feels completely embarrassed about having to perform this silly song in front of everyone, but Atticus and 1-1 start encouraging her to keep going. As she continues singing, she gradually relaxes and opens up more, letting herself actually feel the happy memories connected to the song. Their patience pays off when a massive crystal giant appears and shows his approval of her performance. Not only does he place a brand new set of stairs right in front of the door, but he also unlocks it for them so they can finally move forward. Best of all, Tulip notices that her number has finally gone down to 89, which means she's making real progress even though she's still not sure exactly how the whole system works. After their adventure in the dinosaur baseball car, Tulip and her friends are heading to the next car when something unexpected happens. The walkway between cars suddenly retracts, and a new car slides right in front of them, blocking their path. When they investigate, they find out the car belongs to the cat, who has filled every shelf with her collection of random items. The cat acts like she's completely over what happened when Tulip broke their deal back in the beach car, but her tone suggests otherwise. Even though the group tries to keep moving despite the cat's attempts to make them stay, they get stopped when the cat accidentally knocks over a pile of tapes and asks Tulip to help pick them up. Tulip agrees to help, but while she's gathering the tapes, she discovers something shocking. One of them has her name written on it. The cat offers to show Tulip what's on the tape and slides it into a nearby television. Even though Atticus and 1-1 both seem worried about this, Tulip can't resist watching, and the moment she does, she gets sucked right into the screen. Once she's inside the tape, Tulip realizes it contains her own memories, especially the ones involving her parents. At first, she enjoys looking back at these happy moments, but then she starts noticing weird details that don't make sense. She sees herself putting a blanket on an empty couch, and somehow Atticus and 1-1 appear in a TV commercial that shouldn't exist. As static begins covering her body, she realizes the horrible truth. Someone has been messing with her memories. Soon she starts seeing what really happened, including the painful process of watching her parents' marriage slowly fall apart. When she encounters an over-the-top version of the day her parents told her about their separation, she quickly fixes it and sees her younger self angrily lashing out at her parents for changing everything in her life. The truth hits Tulip like a punch to the gut. She was the one who changed her own memories because she couldn't handle her parents getting divorced. She had been pretending their marriage was much happier than it actually was, creating fake memories to avoid dealing with the pain. Once she accepts this difficult reality and stops lying to herself, the tape releases her back into the real world. When she gets back, Tulip immediately understands what just happened. The cat was trying to trap her inside that memory tape on purpose. As she starts to leave, the cat desperately tries to stop her by pointing out that her number is going down, which means she must be making real progress on the train. This comment makes Tulip furious because she realizes the number is supposed to measure her personal growth, like she's some kind of project to be fixed. She angrily tells off both the cat and the train's whole system, then grabs one of her gloves and covers up the number completely. She storms out with Atticus and 1-1, who are just as mad as she is about what the cat tried to do. Meanwhile, the cat realizes her plan has completely backfired, so she frantically grabs another memory tape before her car gets suddenly moved to a different part of the train. When she arrives at the new location, she comes face to face with the steward, who demands to know where Tulip is. Things get even scarier when a mysterious robotic figure called the conductor shows up and actually orders the steward to kill the cat. Terrified, the cat begs for her life and claims she's the only one who can help them find Tulip and her friends. The conductor decides to spare her for now, but the steward warns her not to mess up again before completely destroying her entire collection as punishment. After leaving the spa car behind, Tulip, Atticus, and 1-1 step into the next car and find themselves in a bizarre world that looks like someone started building it but never finished. The gravity works in weird ways, and the architecture doesn't make any logical sense, but it's home to a group of turtle people who are ruled by Emperor Aloysius III. While Atticus gets excited about chatting with a fellow ruler and 1-1 starts acting really strange, Tulip feels increasingly anxious because she knows they spent way too much time in the spa car already. She just wants to keep moving forward, but 1-1's bizarre behavior is starting to become a serious problem. The real trouble begins when 1-1 becomes obsessed with fixing the car because they think it's broken, even though the turtle people have actually learned to use all the car's weird quirks to their advantage. They've built their whole society around the strange gravity and odd layout, so it works perfectly fine for them. But 1-1 won't listen and keeps meddling with the car's systems, which puts all the turtle people in terrible danger. They could actually get flung right out of the train to their deaths. Tulip realizes she has to do something fast, so she manages to talk 1-1 down from their obsessive fixing and convinces them to put back the control orb they removed. When 1-1 replaces it, the car gets restored, though it doesn't go back to exactly how it was before. Still, the turtle people are safe again, and Atticus even offers Emperor Aloysius help from Corginia's search and rescue team if they ever need it. With the crisis solved, the three travelers can finally move on to the next car without any more drama. After their messy adventure in the jelly bean car, the group walks into a car that's completely covered in chrome. Everything sparkles and shines like a giant mirror. At first, they have a blast skating around on the slippery surfaces and making faces at their reflections, but then they discover the next door won't budge. While they're trying to figure out what they need to do to get through, Tulip notices something really creepy. Her reflection isn't copying her movements anymore and keeps scowling at her instead. This makes her seriously uncomfortable, especially when the reflection starts talking and reveals she has her own mind. The reflection explains that the only way to open the door is for them to switch places and open it together from both sides. Even though Atticus clearly doesn't like this plan and tries to talk her out of it, Tulip agrees to switch with her reflection so they can move forward. But the moment they open the door together, the reflection completely betrays Tulip by declaring that she's finally free and doesn't want to be tied to Tulip's life anymore. When Tulip realizes what's happening, she asks Atticus and 1-1's reflections for help, and they quickly call in Reflection Enforcement
I've already alerted Reflection Enforcement
to handle the situation. Mirror Atticus and 1-1 get dragged away by security, while two mirror cops named Agent Sieve and Agent Mace show up to deal with what they call the Sliver. They plan to destroy Mirror Tulip before she can cause trouble in the real world, but Tulip protests loudly because she doesn't want her reflection to be killed, even if she did betray her. Unfortunately, the agents just lock Tulip inside their police car so she can't interfere with their job. Tulip uses her pocket knife to break out of the police car, which makes the mirror cops panic and grab their tools to destroy Mirror Tulip before she can escape to the real world. But when Mirror Tulip tries to leave the chrome car, she discovers a huge problem. There aren't any reflective surfaces outside for her to walk on, so she's completely stuck. Tulip reaches out to help her reflection, but Mirror Tulip just laughs at her and calls her a hypocrite. She points out how Tulip constantly isolates herself from everyone else and never asks for help when she really needs it, especially from her friends. This hits Tulip like a slap in the face. Suddenly, all those painful memories come flooding back. How she used to pretend she was busy with other things so she could hide in her room and feel sorry for herself. She remembers refusing to talk to her parents after the divorce, and her reflection cruelly reminds her about all those times Michaela called wanting to hang out. But Tulip just ignored her. The truth hurts. But Tulip finally understands what she's been doing wrong. She offers to give Mirror Tulip her own mirror if she'll switch back with her, and Mirror Tulip agrees to the deal. They barely manage to escape both the reflection police and the chrome car by using the tiny mirror on Tulip's pocket knife. When they arrive in the pencil bank car, Mirror Tulip is thrilled about her new independence and decides she wants to explore the train on her own while figuring out who she really is now. Before she leaves, she tells Tulip that she doesn't need to hide behind the glove anymore and shouldn't care what the train thinks of her.
Good luck, Tulip Prime. Good luck, Mirror.
Finally takes off the glove she's been using to cover her number. When she looks down, she can't believe what she sees. Her number has dropped all the way down to 3. After spending the night in the luau car and making a quick trip through the graph car, the group walks into what looks like a giant playground from one of those kids' fun centers. They can't resist jumping straight into a massive ball pit, and for a moment everything feels carefree and simple. While they're playing around, Tulip realizes how much she's missed game design camp and that she really just wants to go home now, even though she knows she'll miss all the crazy adventures they've had on the train. She takes a moment to thank Atticus for sticking with her through everything, especially since her journey doesn't have much to do with his original mission to stop the steward. Atticus tells her that he stayed because he values their teamwork and friendship, which makes Tulip feel really good about their bond. Soon they meet Khaki Bottoms, a stuffed rabbit who needs their help bringing something called the Jiggle Wiggle, basically a water toy, to where it belongs somewhere else in the car. Khaki Bottoms takes them on an imagination-based adventure through the car's jungle gym, and they all get caught up in the playful spirit of it. They're having such a good time pretending and exploring that it feels like being kids again. When they reach the end of their adventure, Khaki Bottoms decides to let them keep the Jiggle Wiggle as a gift, and they're all about to celebrate when the whole car suddenly starts shaking violently. Tulip spots robotic tentacles crawling all around them and realizes with horror that the steward has finally tracked them down. Their attempt to escape goes terribly wrong when the Jiggle Wiggle falls right out of Tulip's pocket and lands directly in one of the steward's mechanical claws. This gives away their exact location, and the steward immediately sends them crashing down onto the main floor of the car. Atticus jumps in to distract the steward so Tulip and 1-1 can get away, but the steward still manages to grab Tulip before she can escape. Just when things look hopeless, the conductor shows up and starts accusing Tulip of messing with its plans and rejecting all the gifts it tried to give her, including sending the cat to trap her in those fake happy memories. The conductor orders the cat to go after 1-1, but then immediately betrays her by having the steward blast the pipe she crawled into. The conductor coldly tells Tulip that she's responsible for her friends getting hurt because she took them away from their cars and put them in danger. Suddenly, Atticus bursts out from his hiding spot and tries to attack the conductor, but he gets captured almost instantly. The conductor demands that Tulip stop her journey completely, and when she doesn't respond fast enough, it shoots Atticus right in the head, which seems to kill him instantly. Then the conductor has the steward completely destroy the car as they leave, but something horrible happens to Atticus's body. It transforms into one of those energy-draining creatures called a gome and starts coming after Tulip. Just when it looks like it's going to drain all her energy, The Gome seems to stop itself somehow. 1-1 suddenly emerges from all the wreckage, which gives Tulip the chance she needs to grab him and run. The Gome charges straight at them, but Tulip manages to trick it into following her into a broken, dead-end section of the playground where it gets trapped. Once they're safe, Tulip completely breaks down and starts crying while 1-1 tries his best to comfort her after everything that just happened. After watching Atticus turn into a Gome and getting attacked by the steward and conductor, Tulip feels completely broken. Her number starts climbing again, but she doesn't even care anymore because she thinks nothing matters and she'll be trapped on the train forever. That's when the cat shows up. She actually survived the conductor's attack and offers to help Tulip save Atticus. She reveals there's still time to cure him using a memory tape that belongs to someone else, one she had secretly saved from her collection. Even though Tulip doesn't trust the cat, she's desperate enough to agree. When they enter the tape, Tulip is shocked to find that 1-1 somehow followed them inside. The memories they're watching belong to a young couple named Amelia and Alric, showing everything from their childhood friendship through engineering school all the way to Amelia proposing to Alric. They discover that Alric created the conductor's voice, which makes Tulip think he must be the conductor. Tulip gets frustrated and says they're wasting time.
Done wasting time! I want to save my friend!
And when 1-1 agrees they should leave, a hole suddenly appears that drops them into a different memory. They see someone in Alric's hoodie grieving over losing their partner, and Tulip assumes Amelia died, which drove Alric to become the conductor. But she can't get closer because the conductor keeps the memory at a safe distance. 1-1 manages to get them closer, and that's when they discover the shocking truth. The conductor is actually Amelia, not Alric. After losing Alric, a heartbroken Amelia found the Infinity train on their university roof and took it over. The cat points out that the front of the train has the same cannons Amelia used to transform Atticus, which means they can use them to change him back. Tulip gets angry at the cat for not just telling her this from the start, instead of making her watch all these sad memories. But then she realizes something important. The conductor was just running away from changes in her life, exactly like Tulip had been doing. This understanding makes her number drop straight to 0, and a door leading home appears right in front of her. But Tulip knows she can't leave without saving Atticus first, so she teams up with the cat and uses her shuttle to hack into the train car with a broken piece of the steward's tentacle, sending them straight toward the engine. Tulip, 1-1, and the cat finally reach the front of the train, where they discover Amelia busy building even more train cars. The cat says a mysterious goodbye to Tulip, telling her that she always does the right thing before taking off in her vehicle and leaving them behind. Tulip has to drag the still transformed Atticus through the newest car, which looks almost exactly like that weird unfinished car they visited before, until they reach the engine where Amelia is working. When Amelia sees that Tulip's number has hit 0, she demands that Tulip leave immediately. But Tulip fights back by trapping her inside her own memory tape. While searching for the cannon that can change Atticus back to normal, Tulip discovers she can't use it without a special power orb that's designed to create corgis. Unfortunately, Amelia's robot suit sets off an alarm that brings the steward running, and it quickly destroys the tape and frees Amelia from the trap. Amelia threatens to mess with Tulip's number and send her exit door as far away as possible. But Tulip refuses to leave the train without Atticus. Amelia follows through on her threat, but just as the steward is about to attack, Tulip releases Atticus on them and tells 1-1 to figure out how to stop either the steward or the whole train. While fighting her way through the new car and battling Amelia with her donut holder, Tulip suddenly notices the turtle people scattered around and realizes something important. Amelia built this version of the unfinished car because she was trying to recreate her old life, including a world where her dead husband Alric could still exist with her. Amelia tries to convince Tulip by offering to make her a car where her parents are still together, but Tulip tells her that wouldn't be real and manages to break Amelia's robot suit, revealing the actual human woman hiding inside it. Amelia insists that Tulip is destroying everything and claims she just wanted to keep one under control, but then 1-1 makes a shocking discovery. He identifies the ship's main computer as his mum. Meanwhile, Tulip finally finds an orb that can create corgis, and after several attempts, she manages to fire a successful shot at Atticus. However, the steward immediately knocks Atticus into a wall, which seems to hurt him all over again. Just when Amelia grabs hold of Tulip, 1-1 jumps directly into the control board and resets the entire engine system. The steward tries to remove him, but 1-1's commands stop it completely. And that's when the real Atticus breaks free from the creature's body and destroys the steward once and for all. The impact sends Amelia flying out of her mechanical suit from the unfinished car, which gets launched to some unknown part of the train, and she falls back down into the engine room. Tulip and Atticus have an emotional reunion, and she happily returns his crown to him. 1-1 then reveals the truth. He's actually the real conductor of the train.
You're the real conductor?
And the engine has been his mother this whole time. Amelia explains that she removed 1-1 from the control panel when he refused to create a car that included her dead husband Alric, and she stayed trapped on the train because she can't bear to live without him. When Amelia shows them her number, it's so incredibly high that it covers her entire body, which means she'll probably be stuck on the train forever. Tulip tells her that she needs to learn how to adapt to the changes in her life, and maybe then she can work on getting her number down to 0 too. 1-1 creates Tulip's exit door, finally giving her the way home she's been looking for. She says an emotional goodbye to both Atticus and 1-1, and even wishes Amelia good luck with eventually finding her own exit someday before stepping through the door. 7 months later, Tulip's father comes to pick her up for camp. Her parents share a moment of understanding before they leave, and Tulip confidently declares that she's ready for whatever comes next. After parting ways with Tulip, Mirror Tulip, now going by MT, gives herself a grunge makeover and begins freely exploring the Infinity Train. Armed with a can of black spray paint, she covers up reflective surfaces to avoid being tracked and tears down any wanted posters with her face on them. Her journey leads her to a black market car teeming with bizarre alien creatures. While browsing, one creature scans her with a glass eye, triggering the arrival of the Reflection Police, Mace and Sieve, who leap through the reflection to apprehend her. MT bolts through the chaotic streets and manages to escape into the next car, an autumn-colored forest. There, she finds a deer lying in the leaves and quickly hides behind it as the Flecks storm in after her. To her surprise, the deer turns them both invisible, allowing them to evade capture. When the coast is clear, MT tries to walk away, but the deer insists on sticking by her side. Despite her initial annoyance, the two spend the next couple of days traveling together, and MT begins to grow fond of her new companion. The next morning, MT wakes up and sees that the deer is missing. Worried, she starts looking for him and quickly spots someone else with the deer. She walks over and gets defensive. The other person says his name is Jesse. They start arguing about who the deer belongs to, each saying the deer has powers only they have seen. MT says he can turn invisible, and Jesse says he can teleport and shoot lasers from his antlers. After a while, they figure out they're talking about the same deer who just has a lot of strange powers. Jesse says he named the deer Alan Dracula, which makes MT angry. She says the deer should choose its own name. Before they can argue more, Alan Dracula stands on a bunch of leaves and suddenly falls through. There's a deep hole under the leaves, and MT and Jesse can only watch in shock as their deer disappears. MT and Jesse climb down the hole where Alan Dracula fell and find out they're actually on top of a huge tree. The tree has many branches, and each branch has little homes in it. Two big families live there, the Gillicuties and the Trumbleshanks, and they don't get along at all, but they're stuck living in the same tree because someone from each family got married. MT just wants to get to the bottom of the tree to find Alan Dracula, but Jesse thinks they should help the families stop fighting. He tries to agree with both sides to calm things down, but this only makes things worse. The more the families fight, the more the tree seems to trap them. It even starts turning Jesse's body into wood. Soon, they figure out that the tree reacts to anger and fighting, but when they start saying kind things to each other, the tree stops. Finally, they reach the bottom. That's when Alan Dracula shows up again, calmly walking up the tree using suction cups on his feet like nothing happened. Since they're stuck together now, MT decides to help Jesse lower his number, only to find out that his number went up from 31 to 32, and that 31 was his starting number all along. This frustrates MT, but they keep moving forward anyway. MT and Jesse enter a strange place called the Map Car, where they meet a wind-like person named Marcel. Marcel asks them to help build a map so the world around them can grow. MT helps, but doesn't really care about doing it right. She tells Jesse to just find something emotional about himself, thinking that will help his number go down. But when Jesse does what she says, his number actually goes up to 33. Later, Jesse shares something real. He says he's on the swim team at school and has never really made his own choices. This honest moment causes his number to drop back down to 31. They then realize that Marcel is secretly keeping them trapped inside the car. Jesse figures out he can change the map himself. He draws a new path, and the whole world around them turns into a soft pastel painting. Marcel disappears, and Jesse's number goes down even more. Now it's 29. The three of them take a break by a peaceful river. But things take a turn when the river, which wasn't reflective before, starts showing reflection. This allows the reflection police to find MT again, and they come after her. MT and Jesse run into the next car, which is a plain white cube-shaped room. In the center, there's a talking toad who tells them the only way to open the door is to kick him. But the toad also asks them not to kick him. Jesse feels stuck. If he kicks the toad, his number will go up. So they decide to stay the night in the car. While resting, Jesse watches a video on his phone. It reminds him of how he once treated his little brother Nate badly just to impress his friends. He clearly feels guilty about it. The reflection police Civ and Mace, who are waiting outside, try to trick Jesse into leaving the phone out overnight.
If the phone screen reflects, they can jump through and grab MT. Before that can happen, MT grabs the phone and smashes it, stopping the plan. Jesse asks MT to tell him the truth. She finally opens up and explains that she's Tulip's reflection, but she doesn't want to just copy someone else's life. She wants to live her own. She's being hunted by the Flex because they can track her through any reflective surface, except her own body. As the reflection police try to break into the car, the Toad suddenly gives them permission to kick him, and Alan Dracula does exactly that. The door opens, and the group escapes, bringing the Toad with them. They manage to trap the reflection police inside the car. The Toad, now free, thanks them and hops away. The group celebrates and Jesse's number drops down to 14. As MT and Jesse keep learning more about each other, they enter a flower car filled with all kinds of bright, colorful plants. But when they try to leave, they find the exit is blocked. Suddenly, Alan Dracula starts talking, which shocks both of them. They soon find out that a small parasite named Perry has crawled into Alan's mouth and is now controlling him. Perry claims he's not hurting Alan and even helps them find a way out of the car. Next, they go through a fashion car where they must walk on a runway and show off their best outfits to reach the exit. With some teamwork and style, they manage to pull it off. But as they keep moving, Alan Dracula's powers start going wild. Inside the next car, which is shaped like a giant food pyramid, MT and Jesse notice something strange. Alan has gotten much bigger. They realize that Perry is actually hurting Alan from the inside, and Alan is trying to fight back. MT remembers a flower from the flower car that Alan was allergic to and rushes back to grab it. Jesse uses the flower to help Alan sneeze Perry out of his body. It works. Perry is frozen by Alan's strange powers and left behind, desperate and powerless. Jesse's number drops to 11, and the group moves forward, closer than ever. Just MT, Jesse, and their unpredictable dear friend, Alan Dracula. The group enters a new train car that's set up like a carnival called the Lucky Cat Carnival, filled with colorful games and flashing lights. It's run by the cat, who tells them that the only way to leave is to win the exit door as a prize. She explains that usually only one person can win it each month, but if MT and Jesse work together and earn 1,000 points, she'll let both of them lead. Excited but nervous, MT and Jesse start playing. They're up against a quiet, masked gamer who's very skilled. As they play, they notice something unfair. Jesse gets more points than MT even when they complete the same tasks. The cat says it's because Jesse is a real passenger with a stronger need to get off the train. MT is just a reflection, so she doesn't count as much. Jesse, frustrated by the unfairness, tells MT that he doesn't want to leave the train without her. This kind moment causes his number to drop all the way to 4. Just as they're close to winning, Alan Dracula gets obsessed with a claw machine and distracts them. Because of the delay, they lose to the masked gamer who turns out to be a passenger named Grace.
Grace opens the exit door, but instead of leaving, she lets in a wild group of kids who begin wrecking the carnival. She clearly has her own plans. As she invites Jessie to join her in the next car, she pulls off her glove and reveals something shocking. Her train number is huge, stretching all the way up her arm. MT and Jessie are left wondering who this new girl really is and what kind of trouble might be coming next. Grace introduces Jessie and MT to her gang of kids called the Apex.
Now it belongs to the Apex.
These kids believe it's better to keep their numbers high so they can stay on the train forever. They think Amelia is the real conductor and that 1-1 stole her place. Their hideout is a destroyed mall car where they've built a kind of clubhouse. Grace starts training Jessie and takes him into the next car where the Apex kids act wild and break things on purpose. Meanwhile, MT stays behind, searching the mall for Alan Dracula, but some Apex kids take him away to be stabled. When Jessie asks about MT, Grace says they don't count her as a real person because she doesn't have a number, they call her a null. Jessie begins to fall into their way of thinking and joins their mischief, causing his number to slowly go up again. But when he realizes what's really going on, he changes his mind. MT finds Alan and tries to escape, but the Apex kids catch her and plan to throw her off the train. Just in time, Jessie shows up and saves her. Furious, Grace calls the Reflection Police, the Flex, on them. As Jessie stands up for MT and makes his own choice, his number drops all the way to 0. A glowing portal back home appears. MT tries to enter with him, but she can't.
Only passengers with numbers can go through. Jessie is sucked back home, leaving MT behind. MT is now alone, scared, and surrounded by the Flex. MT and Alan Dracula escape the Flex by climbing to the top of the train, but Agent Mace catches up and locks a shackle around MT's wrist. Suddenly, one of the train cars shifts, slicing Mace in half. The impact throws MT, Alan, and Mace's remains off the train and into the empty wasteland that surrounds it. MT tries to walk away from the train with Alan, but they soon discover that they can't go far. They're tethered to the train. Even in pieces, Mace is still alive and continues to taunt MT, saying that she was never meant to have her own life. According to him, train denizens like her are only created to serve passengers like Tulip or Jessie, not to live freely. But MT doesn't listen. Instead, she makes a decision. She's going to take one of the passenger pods to the front of the train and demand a number of her own. She and Alan climb back aboard, and when Mace tries to stop her, she crushes him under the wheels of the moving train. Now, MT and Alan sit on top of the train, quietly waiting for a passenger pod to arrive, ready to fight for a life that's truly hers. MT stands on top of a train car with Alan Dracula, waiting for one of those passenger pods to show up. She explains her plan to hijack a pod so she can get to the part of the train where she can finally get her own number. She mentions that when she eventually leaves the train, she won't be able to bring Alan Dracula with her, but then realizes this is supposed to be her personal journey, and it wouldn't be fair to drag him along against his will. When she spots a pod coming their way, she jumps on it and hijacks it, which damages the vehicle and forces her to kick off the confused passenger inside. The terrified passenger runs away screaming after Alan Dracula transforms into some kind of spider deer creature to scare them off. Because of all the damage MT caused, the pod gets automatically sent back to the tape car, and she has to sit through 1-1's boring train documentaries during the whole ride. Once they reach the tape car, MT sees robotic workers called porters sorting through new passengers, but they completely ignore her because she's technically a denizen of the train rather than a real passenger. She notices strings of tape flowing down from the lower levels, so she follows them and discovers something horrifying called the passenger farm. In this creepy place, she watches as the porters literally extract passengers' memories right from their heads, turning them into those memory tapes she's seen before. While she's trying to process this disturbing scene, she accidentally gets sucked into the ground when they're extracting a passenger, which separates her from Alan Dracula. She gets shot through a tube into the memory watching room, where she sees the machine that assigns numbers to passengers before sending them off in pods to explore the rest of the train. Desperate to get her own number, she tries to steal one from a passenger, but she's horrified when the machine's laser passes right through her hand without giving her anything. Furious and shouting that she deserves a number just like everyone else, she grabs a pipe from the wall and starts smashing the porter robots before going after the number machine itself. But before she can cause any more damage, the steward appears and corners her, then opens its mask to reveal 1-1 inside. 1-1 recognizes MT as Tulip's reflection, which makes her furious because she insists she's her own person who deserves an exit from the train. 1-1 refuses to help her,
Give me a number then!
Numbers are for passengers.
explaining that numbers are meant for passengers and their personal growth, while MT is a denizen who was only created to help passengers with their problems. To prove his point, 1-1 shows her a data pad with information about Jesse and how he managed to get his number down to 0 with her help. But then 1-1 realizes something shocking. Jesse is actually being processed to come back onto the train. They find him in the passenger farm, where MT reunites with Alan Dracula, and bring Jesse to the memory watching machine so 1-1 can figure out why he returned. A new memory tape gets created that shows them the real source of Jesse's problems. He's been carrying around guilt for leaving MT behind on the train. After he got off, he reunited with Nate and apologized for his behavior before explaining everything that happened. After thinking it over, he decided he couldn't just abandon MT. MT wakes Jesse up, and they have a happy reunion. But 1-1 forces Jesse to get assigned a number. When the machine tries to give him one, it only shows impossible symbols because Jesse's problem is that MT is stuck on the train. And since MT is supposed to be a denizen who can't leave, his problem can't actually be solved.
This creates a paradox that catches 1-1 in a logic loop and causes the whole car to lose power. The power outage creates a reflection in one of the screens which summons Agent Sieve, who wants revenge after MT killed his partner Mace. Sieve offers 1-1 a solution to the paradox: just destroy MT completely, and 1-1 actually considers it. After fighting off Sieve for a moment, MT notices Jesse's number being reflected in a television screen. She quickly grabs this opportunity and shows 1-1 that she can reflect Jesse's number off her hand, proving that since she has a number, she should be able to get an exit. 1-1 accepts this logic and creates a special dual exit for both MT and Jesse. But as they try to escape, Sieve manages to grab onto MT's leg, leaving her half stuck between the train and the human world, while Jesse tries to pull her through. MT grabs some grass from the ground and uses it to summon Alan Dracula, who fires his laser eyes and completely destroys Sieve, freeing them both. Having saved MT and Jesse and completed his role as their companion, Alan Dracula's feet turn into rockets, and he flies back to his home car with 1-1's help. MT opens her eyes to find herself in the real human world, and both she and Jesse can hardly believe they actually made it out. Nate shows up and is amazed that the Chrome girl Jesse told him about is actually real, then introduces himself. When MT tries to introduce herself, she realizes she doesn't have a real name yet and brushes off Jesse's joking suggestion of Dracula 2.
Dracula 2?
Looking at her reflection in a nearby lake, she decides to call herself Lake.
I'm Lake.
The Apex is busy in the mall car when Grace and Simon get ready to lead a raid on a musical car where the denizens are putting on a show. The Apex trash the stage and attack the denizens, then take a bow to open the exit door. Back at their base, members bring Grace and Simon different gifts or trophies from their raids. Grace praises everyone, even if she doesn't like what they bring. One girl, Lucy, brings a scared stage light denizen from the musical car. Grace tells Lucy to wheel the denizen away. When Lucy asks if she can keep it for herself, Grace reminds her that denizens belong to the Apex. Simon steps in and tells Lucy to bring the denizen to his room instead. Soon after, the Apex raids the unfinished car, where turtles and corgis are fixing the car, but the car suddenly starts moving. Grace orders everyone to run back to headquarters. During the escape, Simon gets trapped under rubble, and Grace rushes to save him, but the moving car separates them from the rest of the Apex. Grace uses her harpoon pack to pull herself and Simon out, but the cord snaps. Now, they are 47 cars away from the others. Simon is upset, but Grace is ready for the challenge as they enter the jungle car, ready to face whatever comes next. Grace and Simon are now separated from the Apex and have lost one of their harpoon packs. They check what they have and decide to explore the new car. The plants and animals in this place glow when touched, making the forest feel magical. Grace tells Simon to relax and not worry too much about their tough situation. Suddenly, they hear a loud noise in the forest. The noise causes damage, like knocking down trees. They decide to catch and stop whatever null denizen is making the noise, but their plan fails. The denizen breaks their trap and then captures Grace and Simon. It turns out to be a gorilla with two big tubas on its shoulders called Tuba, along with a playful little girl named Hazel. Simon tries to invite Hazel to join the Apex, but he's too harsh, which makes Tuba angry and try to attack him. Hazel stops Tuba just in time. Grace is kinder and more patient, so Hazel and Tuba start to trust her. Simon notices that Hazel's number 337 doesn't glow. He thinks that 11 might be hiding Hazel from them. Grace invites Hazel to join the Apex so she can learn about her numbers and play with other kids. Hazel is excited but worries when Grace and Simon say that Tuba can't come with them. Grace realizes that Tuba is too dangerous right now, so she lies and tells Hazel that Tuba will come with them, but secretly tells Simon they will leave Tuba behind later. Tuba agrees to go along with Hazel, but gives Grace and Simon a suspicious look. Now, the group prepares to continue their journey together. Grace and Simon travel through the ocean car, feeling uneasy as they watch Hazel playing happily with Tuba. Both Grace and Simon plan to get rid of Tuba later, but keep that secret for now. They try once again to convince Hazel to join the Apex. They tell her a story about how the train was taken over by a bad robot named 11 instead of the real conductor, a man with a big black helmet with a red wave and the highest number on the train.
They say 11 wants to get rid of all the humans on the train, and since he took over, kids have been disappearing. What they don't realize is that this is actually the train's real purpose. Grace, proud of having the highest number, tells Hazel that she helps keep everyone's number high. She says Hazel can join the Apex if she proves she's special and brave. While moving between cars, Tuba and Hazel sing a song that Tuba used to sing to her own kids. Tuba admits she can't go back to them for reasons she won't say. They arrive at the debutante ball car, a huge fancy ballroom full of elegant octopus people. A talking chandelier watches them and criticizes how they look. He says they can only leave the car once they enter society by learning a special waltz dance. The chandelier changes into a more human-like form and takes them to the cotillion room. There, they are trapped until they learn the waltz. Simon tries to find a way out by exploring the air vents, while Grace stays with Hazel to practice the dance. As they follow the dance steps on the floor, Grace learns more about Hazel. Hazel says she learned to dance in classes, but gets confused and scared when Grace asks questions about her parents. Grace tries a different approach. She tells Hazel that she also took dance lessons as a kid, but never with other children because her parents said she needed to learn alone. Once, her teacher put her in a group recital, but her parents didn't come and the other girls didn't know her, so she wasn't invited for ice cream afterward. Simon comes back and says there's only a black void outside the building. Grace suggests they just learn the dance to get out. She and Simon partner up to practice. After practicing, the group performs the dance at the ballroom. The octopus people clap and compliment them. The door opens for them to leave. Grace praises Hazel for being brave and officially welcomes her into the Apex by drawing a red wave on Hazel's face. Hazel asks if Tuba can get one too, but Simon says no, and Grace stays silent, not stopping it. Once outside, Simon asks Hazel to teach him Tuba's song. As Hazel begins, Grace shares a secretive look with Tuba, but she doesn't notice that her own number has started going down. The group travels through a snowy car where Tuba and Hazel happily play around. Simon suggests they have a snowball fight to keep warm and keep their blood moving. Grace takes off her gloves to make better snowballs and notices her number is going down. It drops even more while she laughs with Hazel. Suddenly a blizzard starts, so they have to find shelter. Tuba leads them to a nearby cabin where they are surprised to find the cat on vacation with Randall and Frank. At first, the cat is unfriendly with Grace, but when she sees Simon, she lets them stay. Simon feels emotional seeing the cat and wants to leave, but the blizzard has trapped them inside the cabin. Grace tells Simon to calm down and goes to look for supplies. The cat is confused about why Hazel's number doesn't glow. Hazel tells her about Grace and Simon's story that 11 turned it off.
Grace and Simon said 11 turned it off.
The cat gets suspicious and tries to check Hazel's number, but Simon stops her, warning her to stay away. Grace comes back with supplies, which makes Simon angry because he doesn't want to be near the cat. Later, Simon finds a room where the cat keeps her collections, and he's scared by a creepy stuffed creature called a gnome. home. Back in the living room, Simon finds the cat helping Hazel brew some tea. Simon angrily tells them why he doesn't trust the cat. She was the first denizen he met on the train. She was like a tuba to his 10-year-old self, but after a few months, she left him alone with a scary gome. The cat admits Simon isn't totally wrong. Simon then accuses Grace of not caring about how he feels and runs away. Grace catches up with him and tells him she's been trying to deal with her own number going down. Simon promises they're still a team. When Hazel pours the tea that Grace and Tuba made, she's surprised to see Randall inside the cup. Randall explains that all the water in the car is actually him, and the cat brought him to help the car's environment, including the snow. He says the blizzard started because he saw their snowball fight and wanted to join. To tell the Cloud Randalls the snowball fight is over, Simon boils some Randall water, turning it into steam. The steam tells the Cloud Randalls that there's peace now. With the blizzard stopped, the group leaves the cabin. Before Simon closes the door, he gives the cat a quiet, sad goodbye.
The group is just one car away from rejoining the apex, but Hazel feels tired and wants to take a nap. Simon tries to push her to keep going, but Tuba steps in to stop him. Grace finds a middle ground and suggests Hazel can nap in Tuba's arms while they travel through the next car. Simon again says they should get rid of Tuba, but Grace tells him to wait until they meet up with the apex again. Simon offers to take Tuba out on his own, but Grace firmly tells him no, not wanting to hurt Hazel. They enter the color clock car, where they meet Roy, a clock denizen who has lost his memories. Roy welcomes them, but can't explain much except that they need teamwork, which starts with two people trusting each other.
Teamwork begins with two people trusting each other.
The group notices that different objects, obstacles, and walls appear and disappear with the colors on the clock. The lock and the door only show up at red o'clock. To find the key, they split up. Hazel makes Tuba and Simon team up, trying to get them to get along, even though Simon is annoyed. While moving through the car, Hazel asks Grace why she seems annoyed with Roy. Grace explains her belief about nulls, denizens who can't be trusted. Hazel questions this, saying Tuba seems good. Grace hesitates but admits that Tuba is one of the good ones. Tuba and Simon look for the key during green o'clock. Tuba notices a ramp Simon can't see. She says Bugle was more mature than Simon. Simon finds the key, but it's green and disappears when the time changes to blurple o'clock. Suddenly, a big cage surrounds them. Tuba uses her tubas to break the cage after telling Simon to cover his ears. This shows Roy was right about teamwork. Simon is impressed and asks about Bugle. Tuba says Bugle was her daughter, who she's no longer with, and feels lucky Hazel came into her life. When the time hits red o'clock again, Simon notices Tuba can see and touch both green and red objects like a red ramp because she's colorblind. This helps her find the green key. Together with Simon and his harpoon pack, Tuba uses the key to get through the maze and open the red door. As they prepare to exit, the car suddenly starts moving. Grace and Simon suspect 1-1 has found them. They rush to escape to the next car, but the bridge retracts while they're crossing, leaving Tuba and Hazel separated by a dangerous gap. Tuba, despite Hazel's protests, throws her across to safety but nearly falls herself, clinging desperately to the edge. Simon tells Hazel and Grace to go ahead while he uses his harpoon pack to go back for Tuba. But instead of rescuing her, Simon coldly activates his boots, stomps on Tuba's hand, and lets her fall onto the wheels below, killing her. This cruel act causes Simon's number to rise. Simon returns to Grace and Hazel, shocking them by declaring that Hazel is safe because he wheeled Tuba. Hazel is heartbroken and runs away. Furious, Grace chases after her, rejecting Simon's belief that Hazel would be glad about his choice. When Grace finds Hazel outside the car, she tries to comfort her, only to be horrified as Hazel slowly reveals her true form, transforming into a turtle-like creature. Grace helps calm Hazel down after she panics from her sudden transformation into her turtle form. Grace quickly realizes that Simon won't handle learning about Hazel's true identity very well, and she notices the transformation seems to happen when Hazel gets emotionally upset. She convinces Hazel to stay calm to prevent it from happening again, and promises they'll keep this secret from Simon. When they go back into the car, Grace takes a moment to remind Simon who's in charge after he disobeyed her orders earlier, then they continue moving forward. When they reach the next door, Hazel asks if they can hold a funeral for Tuba, but Simon refuses since there's no actual body to bury. Grace manages to convince him by pointing out that it wouldn't be good for Hazel to meet the apex while she's still grieving over a denizen. They look for the right spot to leave a glowing rock from the jungle car that Hazel wants to use to represent Tuba, and they pass some friendly camping denizens along the way. Simon eventually gets impatient and heads toward the door by himself, which gives Grace the chance to help Hazel pick out a spot up in a tree as Tuba's final resting place. Hazel gives a touching speech about Tuba, and she even manages to convince Grace, who's hesitant at first, to say something about how brave Tuba was. Then Hazel sings Tuba's lullaby, which actually brings Grace to tears. After the funeral, Hazel and Grace meet back up with Simon at the door and cross between cars to where they're supposed to find the apex. On their way, they walk past an older woman who seems to ignore them completely. When they arrive in the canyon of the Golden Winged Snake's car, Simon gets confused because his tracker shows that the big cluster of numbers he thought was the apex has actually moved to the car behind them.
As they turn back toward the door, the woman who walked past them earlier, who turns out to be Amelia, confronts them and angrily demands to know what they've been doing to the train cars. Amelia reveals she's scanning train cars for corrupted code, things that don't match the reality of the car, and accuses the group of causing the glitch. She explains she was sent by 1-1 to fix the problem. Simon lashes out, accusing 1-1 of being a false conductor trying to kill them. Amelia scoffs, saying to 1-1, passengers are just numbers. She reads aloud a welcome message from him, then reveals her impossibly high number beneath her coat. Amelia explains that 3 weeks ago, a pulse started causing corrupted cars to be ejected from the train, and she's been tracking the source ever since. Simon realizes Amelia is the massive number cluster he saw on his tracker. They'd mistaken her for the apex because of how high it was. Amelia begins questioning the group about strange things in the ejected cars, phone booths, college campuses, and an absurd number of turtles. Grace, realizing the code Amelia's tracking is Hazel, rejects Simon's suggestion to work with Amelia to raise his number, citing Apex rules about not trusting adults.
Code A17 of the Apex never trusts adult passengers.
And they flee. Amelia chases after them, but is stopped by flying snakes. Before retreating, she warns them that the car they're in is marked for ejection. The group camps in a nearby grotto. Simon tries to take Grace's glove off to check her number, but Grace resists, and Hazel angrily pushes him away. Grace accuses Simon of making everything about himself and orders him to stand watch. Hazel, connecting Simon's violence to Tuba's death, throws a tantrum saying she can fight him off. Her transformation begins, but Grace quickly calms her down. Suspicious, Simon slips away and returns to the cat's car. He demands to know what's wrong with Grace's number, accusing the cat of owing him after abandoning him to a gome as a kid. The cat protests she didn't mean to leave him, but admits she never came back for him once she realized he wasn't behind her. Simon vents about Grace's low number and brings up Amelia and 1-1, asking if Amelia can be trusted. The cat immediately warns Simon that Amelia is dangerous and untrustworthy. She tries to explain that Grace's number is meant to go down, but Simon refuses to accept it, saying Grace isn't acting like she should, calling the cat by the name he once knew her by, Samantha. Simon prompts her to open a hidden safe in her cabin. She gives Simon a device that lets him view Grace's memories, and can also trap people inside their own memories. Before Simon leaves, the cat warns that sometimes it's not right to look inside the memories of those we love. Simon rejects the warning, insisting he's no longer a child and knows what he's doing. After he leaves, the cat quietly remarks that he has no idea. Grace and Hazel wake to find one of the flying snakes attacking them. Amelia swoops in just in time, knocking out the snake and saving them. She then offers them eggs for breakfast. While they talk, Grace notices Amelia's number dropping, but Amelia shrugs it off, saying the changes no longer affect her. Amelia awkwardly serves eggs to Hazel, admitting she isn't great at cooking, but Hazel insists Amelia makes the best pancakes.
You make the best pancakes!
Amelia is surprised Hazel knows that, until Hazel explains her late partner Alric once said the same thing to her. Hazel warmly hugs Amelia, though Amelia brushes it off. They leave the car and run into Simon, who warns that Grace was right, not to trust Amelia, who is dangerous. Simon tries to attack Amelia, but his strike is stopped by her sound shield, which has the same oscillating sine wave pattern as the apex symbol. Noticing this, Amelia realizes the connection with the symbols on Grace, Simon, and Hazel's faces. Grace and Simon explain their story. 1-1 is a false conductor,
And if he wasn't imprisoned by the false conductor 1-1,
and the real conductor was a man with the highest number who wore a black helmet with a red wave. Amelia bursts into laughter, then pulls out a voice changer she used when posing as the conductor. She reveals that she is the very conductor Grace met as a child in the pumpkin car, though she doesn't remember the encounter herself. Without further explanation, Amelia moves on. Simon insists they need to get away from her, echoing the cat's warning, but Grace urges Simon to trust her for now. They follow Amelia into the next car, cautiously stepping forward into the unknown.
The group waits in the massive canyon car, where rocks labeled "Hey, Ho, and Whoa" fall to fill the gap before they can cross. The car has reset since Amelia passed through, forcing them to stay put. Grace questions Amelia about her past as the conductor. Amelia explains she was once just a passenger who overthrew 1-1 and created the cars she's now trying to quarantine instead of ejecting. Her way of making amends so she can someday leave the train. When Grace and Simon claim the train's goal is to have the highest number, Amelia corrects them. The real purpose is to work through your problems so your number can drop to 0. The worse you do, the higher your number climbs. Simon accuses Amelia of lying, saying the train is their right and she's brainwashing them for the false conductor. Even when Grace points out Amelia was the false conductor, Simon insists she's lost her way. Amelia laughs, calls Simon a child for not considering he might be wrong, and mocks his stubbornness. Simon angrily attacks, but Amelia's sound shield blocks everything. She threatens to put him down by the count of 3. Hazel panics, transforming into her turtle form right in front of everyone. Amelia finishes counting while Grace quickly pretends not to notice. Amelia realizes Hazel is one of her creations. Hazel's number, 337, matches the number Amelia had when she first boarded the train. She reveals Hazel is a failed attempt to recreate Alric, though she's unsure in what way. Amelia warns that any car with Hazel risks being ejected and insists Hazel must be quarantined. Simon suggests leaving Hazel behind with Amelia. Grace, trying to save face with Simon, calls Hazel a null,
I'll leave if I want to, null.
but then insists they camp in the car overnight, raising Simon's suspicion. During the night, Simon secretly uses the device the cat gave him to enter Grace's memories. He sees Grace promising Hazel they won't tell him about her denizen status, and the memory breaks him down in tears. Grace wakes up the next morning and cautiously joins Simon, Hazel, and Amelia for breakfast. She still pretends she doesn't know Hazel is a denizen and suggests to Amelia that Hazel should stay with the Apex as a member. But Hazel refuses, saying she no longer feels safe with either Simon or Grace, and firmly decides to go with Amelia. At the car's divide, Hazel and Amelia stay behind as a pulse hits the car and sends them off to another part of the train. Simon, uninterested, walks away while Grace breaks down into tears. In the origami car, Grace continues crying over losing Hazel. Simon, in contrast, seems happy things are back to normal, crushing paper denizens as he walks. Grace finally snaps at him for not caring about Hazel. In response, Simon raises the device the cat gave him and traps Grace inside her own memory tape. Inside the memory, Grace relives her childhood humiliation, her dance recital where her parents never showed up, and she was left out of the ice cream outing with other kids. Seeking revenge, she spreads embarrassing gossip about them. She also sees painful memories of her parents neglecting her, passing her off to different babysitters. This neglect leads her to get caught shoplifting, a desperate bid for attention, only for her parents to refuse to believe she could do such a thing. Shortly after, the Infinity Train arrives and Grace boards it. Simon, who appears alongside her in the memory, tells Grace that the train knew she was wasted in the real world, but would be respected here. Grace then watches the memory of the pumpkin car, where she was almost attacked by the steward but was saved by the conductor, whom she originally remembered as a shadowy black mass. Then she recalls the conductor's true form, a smaller, robotic figure. Simon rejects this memory because it doesn't fit the perfect image of the conductor he believed in, accusing Grace of using Amelia's lies to deceive him. They then see the memory of Grace rescuing Simon from a gome after the cat accidentally left him behind. Afterward, they introduced themselves, and Simon asked why Grace had a higher number than him.
How'd you get it so high?
Grace quickly lied, saying it was because she was really good at the train. The two grew up together on the train, spreading their ideas and beliefs about it to the other children they met. Simon then shows Grace the memory where she promised Hazel they would keep her true identity a secret from him. Grace tries to explain herself, but Simon refuses to listen. Now, with his number reaching his neck, he accuses her of betraying both the Apex and himself. With that, Simon leaves Grace trapped inside the memory tape and returns to the mall car, leaving her alone.
Grace's memory tape prison is not finished yet. Simon's extraction bots awaken and start pulling more memories from her, especially the painful one of Hazel leaving. Hazel's memory lashes out, accusing Grace of being the one who gave Simon the idea to wield denizens and calling her out for protecting herself instead of Hazel when her turtle form was exposed. Grace's inner voice, her own mental image, sternly tells her all her beliefs about the train were wrong. Tearfully, Grace admits her fear of being wrong and disappointing others, and that all her actions were driven by a desperate need to not be alone, even though she still ended up isolated. With that painful realization, her number begins to drop. She apologizes to Hazel's memory and suddenly breaks free, back in the real world, where she stops the bots from extracting any more memories. Seeing the damage Simon left behind in the car, Grace takes a moment to repair the origami birds. The birds respond gratefully, and she finally removes the apex symbol from her face, symbolically shedding her old identity. When Grace returns to the mall car, it is eerily empty until she is confronted by Lucy and the rest of the Apex, now led by a more unhinged Simon. With his high number giving him leadership claim, Simon declares Grace a void, a traitor to the Apex, unfit to lead, and a danger who must be wheeled. The children drag Grace outside the train to wheel her, despite her desperate protests. In a last attempt, Grace tells them they met the conductor, who was not even the real one, and that their entire philosophy is flawed. But Simon calls her a liar and dismisses her. Cornered on the bridge between cars, Grace breaks free and pleads with Simon, explaining she kept Hazel's secret to protect her, and why she warned him not to trust Amelia. She insists they have been going about everything wrong and need to change, hoping to reach the Simon she once knew before it is too late. Simon lunges at Grace with violent fury, trying to shove her off the train and into the grinding wheels below. Grace pleads with him, desperate to break through his madness, but Simon ignores her words. During a brief pause in their fight, a Gome suddenly appears and charges at them. Grace clings to the railing as the Gome lashes out, using its dark power to drain her life force through her hands, leaving her weakened and trembling. Summoning her last strength, Grace grabs hold of one of Simon's gravity boots and kicks the Gome away. Simon's other boot malfunctions, nearly sending him plummeting, but Grace catches him and pulls him back onto the bridge. Shock flashes in Simon's eyes, but instead of gratitude, he uses the moment when Grace is catching her breath to violently kick her off the train. The Apex children watch in horror as Grace falls. Simon's laughter spirals into madness, his number swelling so large that it blankets his entire body and face. But then, to everyone's astonishment, the origami bird's Grace helped earlier swoop in and carry her safely back to the train. The Gome recovers from its attack on Grace and immediately turns on Simon, draining his entire life force. Grace rushes forward, powerless to stop it, and watches in heartbreak as Simon crumbles into dust. Moments later, the Gome explodes. Grace collapses into tears over the loss of her former best friend. The Apex children gather around, trying to comfort her in the silence that follows. In the aftermath, Grace speaks softly but firmly to the children. She tells them they can no longer deny the truth of the train and admits she can no longer be the one to guide them, especially when she doesn't fully understand herself. With a heavy heart, she dissolves the Apex, urging the children to find their own way forward. As her number drops to 501, she watches the children's numbers fall too. For the first time in a long while, a hopeful smile breaks across her face as she looks toward an uncertain but promising future. Ryan Akagi and Mingi Park have been best friends since they were born, and as kids, they both loved music more than anything else. While Ryan has always been excited about the idea of becoming a rock star, Mingi has become much more unsure about that dream as they've gotten older. Still, they make a pact that once they graduate high school, they'll tour all across Canada together until they finally make it to their ultimate goal of playing in New York City. Their band is called Chicken Choice Judy,
and right before they're supposed to perform at a high school competition, Ryan excitedly tells Min-gi that he managed to get his dad's Dodge Street van so they can actually start their tour. But at the last second, Min-gi gets cold feet and backs out completely. Ryan decides to go on tour by himself, playing for tiny crowds and small gatherings, while Min-gi stays home and gets a job working at a diner. Both of their lives end up feeling pretty empty and disappointing until Ryan finally comes back to see Min-gi with big news. He actually managed to secure them a spot to play in New York City.
I've got a show in New York.
When Min-gi still hesitates, Ryan gets frustrated and steals his keys, basically forcing him to come along. They end up getting on a regular train, but somehow get sucked onto the Infinity train instead. Meanwhile, a younger version of Amelia is watching their whole story unfold with 1-1. Who explains how the train works and what its rules are. After reviewing their situation, Ryan and Min-gi get sent off to start their own journey through the train cars. Ryan and Min-gi wake up in a car that looks like the Arctic, and they both have the number 202 glowing on their hands. They meet Kez, a floating service bell who tries to explain where they are, but she's not very good at giving clear explanations. For some reason, the people living in this car are chasing after her. Kez shows them this device that looks like a thermostat, but instead of controlling temperature, it actually changes what time period the car represents. She switches it from the icy setting to a lava world, then to a jungle, and finally to some kind of post-apocalyptic desert. The weird thing is that whoever's chasing them changes along with each era, but they keep attacking no matter what. Ryan and Min-gi start fighting over the device because they can't agree on what setting to choose, but they eventually settle on a futuristic city. That's when they discover the pursuers are actually just regular aliens who are mad because Kez broke their vending machine. Once they put the device back where it belongs, the door to the next car finally opens. The aliens are still pretty upset and keep chasing them, but Kez messes with the device one more time as they're escaping, which gives them the chance they need. Kez seems confused about Ryan and Min-gi's friendship and the way they interact with each other, so she offers to take them to her place. When they enter the next car, they find themselves in an Old West setting and immediately get confronted by a group of insect cowboys. The strange part is that these cowboys call Kez Cactus Kez, which suggests she has some kind of history in this car that she hasn't mentioned yet. Kez creates a distraction, so she, Ryan, and Min-gi can escape the insect cowboys and make it into the town. They duck into a tea saloon that's run by Samantha the cat, and after Ryan tries his best to flirt with her, Samantha becomes really interested in their situation. She's fascinated to learn that Ryan and Min-gi got on the train together, and that their numbers are perfectly synced, so she helps them hide from their pursuers. But then Samantha betrays them when someone offers her a bounty for turning them in. Ryan and Min-gi end up in jail, and while Kez decides to leave on her own, the two friends manage to unlock their cell. Unfortunately, they get caught right away and dragged to court. The judge turns out to be Judge Morpho, who was actually the caterpillar that had been chasing them earlier. He transforms into a butterfly to preside over the trial and immediately declares them guilty of helping Kez, who apparently broke one of their laws by damaging a copy of. Ryan and Min-gi get sentenced to death by Bug Zapper, but they manage to distract everyone by creating a fake Kez decoy. In all the confusion, Judge Morpho accidentally gets zapped instead of them. The friends reunite with both Kez and Samantha, and they all have a good laugh about how everything turned out, which causes Ryan and Min-gi's numbers to drop from 202 down to 180. Just as Judge Morpho is swearing revenge against them, the aliens from the previous car show up asking where they can find Kez, which means their problems are far from over. The group ends up in a car that looks like a giant kitchen, with floating pots, pans, and utensils everywhere. Kez, feeling guilty about something she did in this car, puts on a chef's hat and calls herself Lorraine. They meet a giant pig baby and a tiny ceramic cow with a French accent. The cow tells them they have to cook something for Pig Baby. Ryan and Min-gi only have one cookbook filled with strange dishes. They try making several recipes, but none work. When they run out of butter, Kez admits she accidentally microwaved a huge amount of butter, which led to her expulsion from the car. Using the leftover butter from the microwave, they bake perfect brownies. Their numbers drop to 172, but Min-gi thinks the numbers are meant for Ryan, so their numbers both rise back up to 202. They give the brownies to Pig Baby, but the ceramic cow insists they stay longer. They notice the door is inside Pig Baby's mouth. When Pig Baby sees Kez, he cries. Taking advantage of the distraction, they escape through the door and keep moving. Mingi wrongly believes that he will help Ryan learn a lesson, instead of realizing Ryan needs to learn from him too.
Yeah, you can't help it if you have a lot to learn.
Mingi keeps mocking Ryan, claiming it's to teach him a lesson. Eventually, they end up in the Astro Q car, a moon base style club filled with orange astronauts waiting in a line that stretches through portals. The bouncer, a huge astronaut, crushes whoever reaches the front into a cube. When sweet talking fails, Ryan tries one plan after another, but nothing works. Instead of helping, Mingi just tears him down. At one point, Ryan bolts for the portals and nearly falls. Mingi insults him, but in the process, he knocks over a few astronauts and realizes they're all already dead. It finally dawns on Mingi that he's part of the problem too, especially when their number starts jumping around. Swallowing his pride, he teams up with Ryan, and together they pose as their band, Chicken Choice Judy. The trick gets them inside, but the moment they step in, their feet lock in place. Kez starts glitching, and then, without warning, the steward appears, looming over them with cold, silent menace. After the steward returns their belongings and leaves, Ryan and Mingi head into the club, where they meet Kez's friends. But it's clear right away that these so-called friends don't respect her. They laugh at her mistakes and treat her like a joke. The two make their way to the green room to get ready for their performance. For the first time in a while, Mingi actually feels excited to play with Ryan, and they reminisce about the first song they ever wrote together. But just as Ryan steps on stage, Mingi feels his keys in his pocket and panics. He bolts, leaving Ryan alone in front of a crowd that's already turning against him. Furious, Ryan tries to leave, but Kez stops him. "The party has to be a success," she says, "or we're stuck here." He finds Mingi hiding in the bathroom, where Mingi finally admits the truth. He wasn't ready, and he doesn't even know what they're trying to achieve anymore. The two talk things over, and before long, they're playing music together, just for themselves, away from the crowd. Meanwhile, Kez's so-called friends tell her they never expected much from her, but they're entertained by her failures. Hurt, she walks away and joins Ryan and Mingi. As the three of them play their own song, the crowd's hostility fades. Their numbers drop to 127, and finally, the exit opens. The group enters the art gallery car feeling hopeful. Strange shadows start appearing on the walls as Mingi and Ryan suddenly become hostile toward each other, causing their numbers to climb back up to 202. Kez tries to act as a mediator, but both Mingi and Ryan keep airing their frustrations. Shadowy arms begin to reach out and try to engulf them. Mingi is upset because Ryan left without thinking of him, while Ryan accuses Mingi of being a shut-in with no future. Kez manages to bring them closer together as Ryan examines a piece of art that turns out to be a door. Ryan and Kez fall through it, but Mingi is left behind. A monster, which is the source of the shadows, appears and tries to absorb Mingi. Ryan and Kez watch helplessly from the other side. Ryan declares that he would never leave Mingi behind. His number reaches 0, and a portal home opens. He considers going through it but changes his mind. His number rises back to 115 and the portal disappears. Eventually, Mingi finds the exit. When he escapes, he accuses Ryan of leaving him again. Continuing from the events of the previous episode, Mingi angrily accuses Ryan of leaving him to die, while Ryan tries to explain that he skipped an opportunity to leave, but cannot explain that a door opened for him. Kez tries to lighten the mood by bringing them to her house in the next car, where they can meet Morgan. Kez's home appears to be a castle located at the center of the car, which is surrounded by a giant maze that is apparently new to the car. As they travel through the car, the two friends argue over who has the better life. Mingi argues that Ryan is making something of his life, while he is stuck living with his parents and working a terrible job. Ryan points out that his solo career is unsuccessful and unfulfilling without Mingi. Mingi admits he still does not completely trust Ryan, especially after he went through the door first in the last car. The journey through the maze is interrupted by the arrival of the parka denizens. Judge Morpho, Cow Creamer, Pig Baby, now Pig Toddler thanks to the aerostat, and Nigel, the bouncer from the Astro Q car. They are out for revenge on Kez. The denizens tear through the maze, destroying it as they go while chasing Ryan, Mingi, and Kez. The trio manages to evade and outsmart them and get into the castle, while the denizens end up attacking each other in the mayhem. Kez introduces Ryan and Mingi to Morgan, whom they don't seem to see.
Where is he?
At least not until the very castle they are in starts talking. As it turns out, Kez's roommate Morgan is the castle. Morgan is upset at Kez for causing him to leave the train. He forces Ryan and Mingi into Jeremy's former room and throws Jeremy's belongings at them. The pair point out that Kez refuses to think about how others will react to her actions and runs away without ever apologizing for her wrongdoings. Ryan makes Kez leave. The pair wonder what happened to Jeremy and how Kez was involved. Reading Jeremy's diary, they learn he was on the train for 5 years, and that several other passengers also lived with him, Kez, and Morgan. Over the years, these passengers got their exits, which took a toll on Morgan. In his last entry, Jeremy alluded to something Kez said that alarmed him. Ryan and Mingi question Kez, who admits she and Jeremy had a conversation about a car crash he was in. Although he survived, his mother and sister were killed. Kez told him that it wasn't his fault and that he was emotionally still at the moment of the car crash. His realization that he was simply running away from the accident caused his number to go to 0, and he ended up getting sent back home, which greatly upset Morgan. Mingi and Ryan point out that Kez wasn't wrong for helping Jeremy, since that is what is supposed to happen on the train. Just as they tell her she needs to get better at taking responsibility for her actions, the train begins to shudder. A steward comes crashing into the castle, apparently controlled by Amelia, who awkwardly declares that passengers on the train are now on their own. She then removes Ryan and Mingi's boots. The steward flies out of the castle and explodes in the night, while Ryan and Mingi's numbers reset, only to once again settle at 202. Frustrated that nothing has changed,
It moved, but it didn't change.
the castle, despite Mingi's pleas for him to stay. As the various denizens gather on a hill outside Morgan, Mingi tries to cheer up Ryan, who has all but given up hope of leaving the train after learning that Jeremy was on the train for 5 years. Ryan admits he got an exit outside the art gallery car, but the train took it away when he considered using it. Mingi ultimately understands and admits he would rather stick with Ryan than go back to working at Dumpty's and working in finance. The pair start jamming together, which annoys Morgan. To their surprise, Mingi's number reaches 0, and he gets an exit leading back to Powell Lake, but Ryan's number remains at 202. Mingi resolves to stay until Ryan gets an exit. Morgan, however, is upset at the prospect of them dangling in front of her their ability to leave and leave her alone once again. She opens the drawbridge of the castle and invites the waiting denizens to come in and get their revenge on the three, hoping it will scare Mingi into leaving. Kez suggests they run away again, but Ryan and Mingi refuse and tell her she knows what to do. Just as the denizens come crashing into the room, Kez blurts out an apology and owns up to having caused them all trouble.
I'm sorry!
Ultimately, most of the denizens choose to accept her apology except Judge Morpho, who promptly tries to attack her, only to get knocked up a chimney by Ryan using his guitar and shot into the horizon by Morgan. Kez apologizes to Morgan for what happened with Jeremy. Morgan is not ready to forgive, but accepts the possibility of fixing her and Kez's relationship. Ryan's exit opens soon afterward, and he and Mingi both depart after saying goodbye to Kez. Ryan and Mingi, performing as Chicken Choice Judy, hold a concert in Utica, New York, where they perform their song Train to Nowhere, based on their experiences on the train. After the performance, a patron asks if they have any cassettes for sale, to which Mingi replies that they are working on it. So that will be it from us. If you enjoyed the video, let us know which season was your favorite. Also, do not forget to leave us a like and subscribe to our channel for similar content. Thanks for watching. We'll see you at the next one.